When I was scrolling through the internet, watching YouTube videos, looking at the state of Africa, and I came across a certain interview and the whole story in South Africa about AfriForum going to the United States of America and speaking to the United States of America. And I saw this interview by a guy from Newsroom Africa, I believe. The anchor was a black journalist. He asked one of the AfriForum guys, the leadership or whosoever who represented the delegation which went to speak to the Trump administration. And I'm going to play this clip shortly so that we can all hear and try to read within the lines and try to understand his question.
But you see, these are. That's why I've a problem with that, because these are things that are happening within a framework of law, within a framework of commitments that happen between countries. It's not something that an Afrikaner interest group can come and change a government position on.
Oh, we can. Absolutely, we can. I mean, we represent a specific strong constituency in South Africa and in the South African economy. We represent many farmers in South Africa who export to America. During certain parts of the year, lots of citrus fruit here in America are imported from America. There's really strong arguments from our side for that the American government must not take that route. If you're going to implement a 25% tariff on South African agricultural exports to America, that will have a destructive effect on the South African agricultural sector, especially in the Western Cape. But it will also have an influence on the availability of certain food products here in America. And we represent thus a very, very strong constituency in agriculture, in the chemical industry, the car manufacturing industry. The American government took us serious, and they're still taking us very serious because we are talking on behalf of an important and very strong constituency in South Africa.
And I also think the response that he got was also interesting, and we ought to understand, we ought to read within the lines, because he said, "Oh yes, we can influence the decision of the American government because they represent a strong constituency of business people in South Africa," which simply says, and we sometimes as black people, this is actually a challenge for me. This is how I read his answer. This is a challenge to black people, that this is where we see that the reason why the United States of America would listen to them, because when they know everything that is happening, somebody said, if you assume and you think the United States of America is misinformed, I think you are the one who is misinformed, because they have the best intelligence in the world. They know and they understand very well what is going on. But the reason why they would listen to them, because when we are talking about them having business with South Africa, they're not having business with a country. They're doing business with business people in South Africa, which is those white African people. That's what it simply means. It just gives a challenge to black people. Black people are the majority in South Africa, but actually a small minority group owns the economy. They run the economy. So when the Trump administration is making its decision, they can literally ignore the black counterpart, the government, because government is nothing but a building full of piles of papers of legislation. It's not really they're not in control of the economy. The economy is in the hands of those few white South Africans, I would say. So this is literally a challenge to Africa as a whole, because we do not run our own economies. We do not own our means of production. Then you ought to ask yourself, that's when we get to situations like this, because at the end of the day, the Americans knows who they do business with. They know they're not doing business with the whole country. They're doing business with a specific group of people in the country. Us as Africans, we tend to say things like, we are developing. Look at how beautiful we are, also building beautiful cities. You go to Cape Town. I mean, Cape Town is beautiful. Look at the beautiful buildings in Johannesburg, or this city and that city in Africa. But if you go at the bottom of it, all these developments being done in Africa are not being done by Africans and are not being done for Africans. Yes, Africa would benefit here and there with job creation and the rest of it. But you must remember, the, it is on these buildings are the money that is being injected to build these buildings coming from the Westerners, from the Chinese, and they build it for themselves and they own this building. Any income that is generated from whatever activities that are happening in these buildings, it is also taken out of the country to benefit those who own the building, which are not citizens of Africa. And we ought to wake up as Africans. We must build and develop Africa for Africans. That's why we keep on going around in the same cycle of thinking that we are developing, but we are actually not developing. Because as soon as you drive out of that town where you have seen a few well built skyscrapers, you met with the reality of poor black people who are living in abject poverty, who are living in shacks, who are living in slums, because we are actually not developing anything. These developments that we see are not our developments. They're not for Africans, and they're not by Africans. And as Africans, we need to wake up. We need to take matters into our own hands and be in charge of our own economies, so that we don't end up having the situation that we have, in any other countries. I mean, like, look at for example, countries like Russia, for example, countries like China. There is no a specific group of people who think they are so powerful, or business people who think they are that powerful, to go and engage the United States of America separately and have the power to be able to influence the United States of America. The reason this is happening is because the black majority, they can feel, we feel like, yes, the country is ours, we are the majority and everything, but we don't own the means of production. We don't run the economy. So the Americans do not care about what you say or what you think. They care about that specific small group of people which they do business with. And on the matter of land, I mean, I've given my opinion in a previous video that, you know, uh, the truth is the truth, and the truth is well known by everybody. We all know what happened to the land, how the land was acquired, and how it should be addressed. And I keep on seeing the arrogance from the other side of those the whites who own the land. They keep on uh, pushing this energy that they do not care which land, and as if they don't know what happened. And I honestly believe um the arrogance is actually the problem in this situation. I'm sure the other side would want to fix the problem in a well thought out manner. I would believe that they will be rational about it and still protect the food security of the country, and also safeguard the economy in general. They wouldn't do it in a barbaric way. But I think the arrogance is actually the problem. And I ask myself this question over and over again. How does these people believe? I mean, some of them are very, very successful people, like Rob Hessoff or something. He went on an interview and started talking about all this nonsense about black people, and black people took over the government, destroyed this and destroyed that, and forgetting the history of what actually happened, of the colonialism, and slandering all the black empowerment policies. But people, that arrogance, I think, is the problem that they are having, and they forget, and they do not read their history well. All over the world, and no injustice of that nature will ever survive. A day will come, whether they like it or they don't like it. They, if they want to do it in a better way, I would argue, if they cooperate and do it in a reasonable way, it will also go in a reasonable way. But if they continue in arrogance, I can assure you, I can say, mark my words, the injustice will be corrected. Uh, there will be a day and a time when this will be solved out. There's no way an injustice like that will prevail. There is no system of oppression that has ever sustained for decades and decades. Never. They did it with the even during the colonial rule, where they were using violence, but at some point this thing failed. At some point the people stood up and said, you know what, this cannot be, this cannot happen. We don't care what you have, you don't care whether you have weapons, don't care whether sanctions can be put on us, but we are taking back what belongs to us. And I think that they will come. If these people, I do not know who advises them, which tells them it's fine to keep and stay in arrogancy, but I don't think it is good for them and for the well-being of everybody. I think it would have been better if these people can also cooperate and understand and be honest and genuine about what happened and how it can be addressed, because I do not think it will sustain forever. Never, never. It's impossible. That will never happen. And the more they keep on being arrogant, the more they keep on upsetting the masses. The masses will keep on um, uh, looking at this and getting more and more upset and revealing more and more of the wounds of the past. And that's a very, very terrible decision that some of them are making, of trying to be arrogant